Have you ever wondered what happens to the world when you close your eyes? It is a question that sounds like it belongs in a children's book or a late-night philosophical conversation, but I want you to think about it truly and deeply for a moment. When you sit in a quiet room, surrounded by the gentle hum of the evening, you feel a profound sense of certainty about the physical objects around you. The chair beneath you feels solid. The walls seem to hold their shape with unwavering permanence. The vast and silent cosmos above you appears to follow strict, predictable rules, marching onward in an endless, orderly procession. We navigate our entire lives based on this fundamental assumption that reality is an independent stage, a pre-existing theater, where we are merely temporary actors reading our lines. But what if this reassuring stillness is nothing more than a convincing illusion? What if the very act of your observation is the invisible brush that paints the universe into existence? It is a thought that defies everything we are taught from the moment we first open our eyes. It challenges the very ground we walk upon. Before we dive deeper into this quiet journey of the mind, I want to take a brief moment to welcome you. I am Theodore, the researcher, and I am so glad you have decided to join me tonight. I recently noticed something quite surprising in our community data. Exactly 71% of the wonderful people who watch these explorations have not yet subscribed to the channel. If you find peace and wonder in these cosmic journeys, please consider subscribing. It helps us bring more of this content to you, and it lets us know that you want to keep exploring the deep mysteries of the universe together. Now, let us return to the shadows of the quantum world. To understand the terrifying and awe-inspiring secret that quantum physics has revealed about human consciousness, we must first unlearn what we think we know about matter. Hold your hand out in front of you. Look at your fingers. They seem solid, do they not? When you press your fingertips together, you feel resistance. You feel a boundary where you end and the rest of the universe begins. But this boundary is a phantom. In the early 20th century, scientists, peering through the first advanced instruments, realized that the atom, the supposed fundamental building block of everything, was not a solid sphere at all. If you were to enlarge a single atom of hydrogen so that its nucleus, its center, was the size of a marble sitting in the middle of a massive sports stadium, the single electron orbiting it would be like a tiny fly buzzing around the very highest seats in the stands. Everything in between that marble and that fly is nothing but empty space. You, the chair you're sitting on, the earth itself, and the most distant stars in the vast cosmos are made of exactly this, almost entirely empty space. The illusion of solid touch is merely the result of invisible electromagnetic fields pushing against one another. Your atoms never actually touch the atoms of the chair. They simply repel each other, hovering in a quiet, microscopic levitation. This realization alone is enough to inspire a deep sense of wonder. We are essentially ghosts, moving through a ghostly world, held together by invisible forces in an infinite cosmic dance. But the true mystery, the one that shakes the very foundation of our understanding, lies not in the empty space itself, but in the behavior of those tiny, ghostly particles that make up the remaining fraction of a percent of reality. For decades, classical physics, the science of Isaac Newton and Galileo, painted a picture of a mechanical universe. It was a universe of absolute certainty, where every cause had a predictable effect. If you knew the starting position and velocity of every particle in the universe, you could, in theory, calculate the entire future and the entire past. It was a comforting thought, a universe that operated like a grand, silent clockwork, ticking away reliably in the dark. But as we pushed our vision further into the microscopic realm, this comforting clockwork began to break down. We entered the quantum realm, a place where the familiar rules of our macroscopic world simply ceased to exist. In this ancient, hidden domain, particles do not behave like tiny billiard balls bouncing around in predictable paths. Instead, they exist in a state of shimmering possibility. Before a quantum particle is observed, it does not have a single, definite location or a fixed state of being. It exists as a wave of probabilities, a mathematical ghost that occupies many different places and many different states all at the same time. This concept, known as quantum superposition, is not just a mathematical quirk. It is the fundamental nature of reality at its most basic level. Imagine a coin spinning endlessly in the air. While it spins, it is neither heads nor tails, but a blur of both possibilities. It is only when the coin lands, or when you reach out and catch it, that it is forced to commit to one state or the other. In the quantum world, particles are forever spinning, existing in a state of quiet, infinite potential, waiting for something to happen. And what is that something? What forces a particle to step out of the shadows of probability and into the harsh light of reality? The answer to that question is where the gentle beauty of quantum mechanics meets the profound terror of existential uncertainty. It is here that we encounter the concept of the observer. In the early days of quantum theory, scientists like Niels Bohr and Werner Heisenberg realized something that sounded entirely absurd. They found that the mathematics of quantum mechanics only worked if the act of measurement itself played a fundamental role in the behavior of the particle. The wave of probabilities, that shimmering cloud of infinite potential, only collapses into a single, definite reality when it is observed. Until that moment of observation, the universe remains in a state of suspended animation, a quiet realm of what-ifs and maybes. This led to fierce debates among the greatest minds of the era. Albert Einstein, a man who possessed an unparalleled intuition for the workings of the cosmos, found this idea deeply troubling. He famously asked a colleague if he truly believed that the moon only existed when someone was looking at it. Einstein believed in an objective reality, a universe that existed independently of our minds, a cosmos that was majestic, vast, and indifferent to human presence. To suggest that reality somehow required an observer to become real felt like a step backward into a mystical, almost magical way of thinking. Yet, experiment after experiment over the ensuing decades has confirmed this strange, counterintuitive truth. When we set up delicate instruments to watch the behavior of photons, the particles of light, or electrons, we see that they act differently when they know they are being watched. If we do not measure their path, they behave like waves, rippling through space and interfering with themselves in beautiful, complex patterns. But the very moment we place a detector to see exactly which path they take, the wave collapses. The interference pattern disappears. The particles suddenly act like solid little bullets, taking one definite path and one path only. It is as if the universe is shy, guarding its secrets behind a veil of probability, only revealing a single face when forced to do so by our inquiring minds. The implications of this observer effect stretch far beyond the laboratory. They touch the very core of our existence. If reality, at its most fundamental level, requires observation to become fixed, what exactly constitutes an observer? Does it require a conscious mind? Does a camera recording data in an empty room count as an observer? Or does the reality of that data only become fixed when a human being eventually looks at the screen. Some physicists argue that the observer does not need to be conscious, but a growing number of thinkers suggest something far more profound. They propose that consciousness might be a fundamental property of the cosmos, as elemental as gravity. In this view, the universe is not a dead machine that accidentally gave birth to minds. Rather, the universe is a participatory arena, an ancient system requiring conscious awareness to actualize its existence. This is the terrifying and beautiful revelation we are uncovering. It suggests that we are not passive passengers hurtling through an indifferent void, but active participants in the ongoing creation of reality. Our awareness might be the very mechanism by which the universe wakes up and knows itself. As we prepare to delve deeper into the specific experiments that proved this unsettling truth, I invite you to sit quietly with this thought. Feel the gentle rise and fall of your breath, and recognize that your very awareness might be the anchor holding the fabric of reality together. Imagine, if you will, the quiet solitude of a laboratory deep in the heart of the night. The rest of the world has surrendered to sleep, leaving only the gentle hum of electrical equipment and the faint, rhythmic ticking of a clock on the wall. In this profound silence, a lone researcher stands before an apparatus that seems almost too simple to unravel the very fabric of reality. This is the stage for the most beautiful and terrifying experiment in the history of science. An elegant setup that physicist Richard Feynman once said contains the only true mystery of quantum mechanics. It is an experiment that has been repeated thousands of times in countless variations by brilliant minds across the globe, yet its central revelation remains as shocking today as it was when it was first conceived. To understand the profound connection between the human mind and the physical world, we must embark on a journey into the heart of this paradox, a journey that begins with a single, incredibly tiny particle standing at a crossroad. The setup is remarkably straightforward, consisting of a source that fires these microscopic entities, a barrier with two narrow slits cut into it, and a screen behind the barrier to record where the particles land. When we think of particles, we tend to picture them as minuscule marbles, solid and definite. If you were to fire a stream of tiny marbles at a barrier with two slits, you would naturally expect them to pass through one slit or the other, creating two distinct bands of impacts on the screen behind. This is the logic of our everyday experience, the comforting predictability of the macroscopic world we navigate from the moment we wake. But the quantum realm, that ancient and hidden layer of existence, does not abide by the rules of our intuition. It operates on a logic so alien, so deeply counterintuitive, that it forces us to question the very nature of what is real. When scientists fire electrons at this barrier, one single electron at a time, something inexplicable happens. The first electron is fired, it passes through the apparatus, and it makes a single, solitary mark on the detector screen. Then a second electron is fired, making another mark, then a third and a fourth. If you wait long enough firing these solitary particles one by one in the quiet darkness of the laboratory, a pattern slowly begins to emerge on the screen. It is not the two simple bands you would expect from solid marbles. Instead, it is an interference pattern, a complex series of alternating light and dark stripes. This is the unmistakable signature of a wave. Imagine dropping two pebbles into a still, calm pond. The ripples spread outward from each splash, and where the crests of the waves meet, they amplify each other, creating a higher peak, where a crest meets a trough They cancel each other out, leaving the water perfectly flat. This beautiful, intricate dance of overlapping ripples is exactly what the electrons are doing. But here is the paradox that brings a shiver to the spine of even the most seasoned physicist. The electrons are being fired one at a time. There is no other electron for them to interact with, no other pebble in the pond to create a second set of ripples. How can a single, indivisible particle create an interference pattern all by itself? The mathematics of quantum mechanics, developed by brilliant pioneers in the early 20th century, provides an answer that is as mathematically elegant as it is philosophically terrifying. It suggests that the electron, when it is not being observed, does not exist as a solid particle in a specific location. Instead, it exists as a wave of pure probability, a shimmering ghost of potential that travels through space. This wave approaches the barrier, passes through both slits simultaneously, and interferes with itself before finally hitting the screen and collapsing into a single, localized point. The particle exists everywhere and nowhere all at once, navigating an infinite landscape of possibilities, until the very moment it is forced to interact with the detector screen. This realization alone is enough to fill the mind with a deep, reverent wonder. It suggests that the fundamental building blocks of our bodies, of the earth beneath our feet, and of the most distant stars in the vast cosmos are not solid objects at all, but rather dynamic, shifting clouds of mathematical probability. But the true mystery, the revelation that connects this microscopic behavior to the terrifying power of human consciousness, emerges only when scientists decide to play a trick on nature. Driven by an insatiable curiosity, researchers asked a simple question. What if we place a detector right at the slits to see which one the electron actually goes through? After all, common sense dictates that a single particle must pass through either the left slit or the right slit. It cannot physically pass through both at the same time if it is a singular entity. So, they set up their instruments, delicate devices capable of registering the passage of an electron without destroying it. And they watched. They turned on their detectors and fired the electrons one by one, just as they had done before. The detectors worked perfectly, registering a clear signal every time an electron passed through the left slit or the right slit. They caught the particles in the act, pinning down their exact paths. But when the scientists looked at the final screen, the screen that had previously displayed that beautiful, complex interference pattern, they found that everything had changed. The interference pattern was gone, completely vanished. In its place were just two simple bands of marks, exactly what you would expect if you were firing solid marbles. The wave of probability had disappeared, replaced by the mundane, predictable behavior of a classical object. I want you to pause for a moment and truly absorb the magnitude of what this means. Nothing about the physical setup of the experiment was changed except for the introduction of a device that recorded information. The mere act of measuring, the simple extraction of knowledge about the particle's path, fundamentally altered the nature of reality itself. Before the observation, the electron was a wave of infinite potential, a ghost moving through multiple realities simultaneously. The moment it was observed, the moment its path was known, it was forced to choose a single reality. The wave function collapsed. The universe, it seems, responds to being watched. It is as if the cosmos is a grand, interactive theater, and the particles are actors who only take their designated marks when they know the spotlight is upon them, when the stage is dark, when no one is looking, They roam freely through a realm of formless possibility. This is not some fringe theory or a misinterpretation of faulty data. This is the most rigorously tested and universally confirmed phenomenon in all of modern physics. It has been verified with electrons, with photons of light, with entire atoms, and even with large molecules consisting of hundreds of atoms. Every time we try to peek behind the curtain of reality to see how the universe operates when we are not looking, the universe catches us in the act and instantly changes its behavior to match our expectations. The act of observation is not a passive process of simply registering what is already there. It is an active, creative force that literally brings reality into a definite state of existence. This terrifying and majestic truth forces us to confront a question that philosophers have debated for millennia, but which is now backed by the cold, hard mathematics of quantum theory. What exactly is the observer? When a mechanical detector records the path of the electron, does that count as an observation? For many years, physicists argued that any physical interaction that leaves a trace constitutes an observation, regardless of whether a conscious mind is involved. But the legendary physicist John Archibald Wheeler believed that this profound mystery points to a universe that is fundamentally participatory. He suggested that the universe is a self-exciting circuit, a vast silent mechanism that somehow requires the presence of conscious observers to bring it into being. In this view, consciousness is not an accidental byproduct of biological evolution, a strange spark that happened to ignite in the brains of clever primates on a small, rocky world. Instead, consciousness is a foundational element of the cosmos, as essential to the structure of reality as space, time, and gravity. Without a mind to observe it, the universe would remain in a state of eternal, formless probability, a quiet dream waiting for a dreamer to awaken it. Imagine the vast, silent expanse of the universe, filled with ancient galaxies and swirling nebulas, expanding endlessly in the cold dark. For billions of years, photons of light have been traveling across these incomprehensible distances, crossing the void from distant stars to reach our tiny planet. According to the deepest implications of quantum mechanics, throughout that entire epic journey, those photons did not exist as solid particles with definite properties. They existed as expanding waves of possibility, smearing out across the light years, overlapping and interacting in a state of quiet, infinite potential. It is only when those ancient photons finally strike the lens of a telescope or the retina of your eye that their journey ends. In that precise fraction of a second, a billion years of mathematical probability collapses into a single, definitive reality. By simply looking up at the night sky, you are participating in the creation of the universe. Your gentle gaze is the final anchor that fixes the ancient light into existence. You are not separate from the cosmos. You are the mechanism by which it knows itself. You are the universe looking back at the universe, transforming a realm of ghostly potentials into the hard, undeniable reality we experience every day. This is the terrifying responsibility and the breathtaking beauty of human consciousness. As we sit in our quiet rooms, surrounded by the illusion of solidity, we hold within our minds the power to collapse the wave function of existence. We are the architects of reality, weaving the fabric of the cosmos with every glance, every thought, and every moment of awareness. This profound mystery challenges us to reconsider everything we know about our place in the universe, inviting us to step out of the illusion of separation and into the awe-inspiring truth of our fundamental connection to all things. As you let this thought settle into your mind, as you feel the gentle weight of your own existence, Prepare yourself to journey even further into the heart of this enigma. The quantum realm has even deeper, more unsettling secrets waiting to be uncovered. Secrets that will forever alter your understanding of the world when you close your eyes. Let us begin by contemplating the nature of time itself. Have you ever wondered why the past feels entirely fixed, etched into the bedrock of reality, while the future feels like an open ocean of infinite possibilities? From the moment we first learn to walk, we are taught that time is a one-way street, a relentless river carrying us forward through the quiet landscape of our lives. We believe that what has happened cannot be undone, that history is a closed book resting silently on the shelf of the cosmos. But as we journey deeper into the quantum realm, this comforting illusion of a linear, unchangeable past begins to unravel, revealing a mystery so profound that it challenges the very architecture of logic. To understand this, we must look beyond the immediate space around us and cast our minds out into the vast, dark ocean of the universe. We must consider the light traveling from the most distant stars, ancient messengers that have been crossing the silent void for billions of years. When we gaze up at the night sky, we are not seeing the universe as it is right now. We are looking back in time. The light from a star 1,000 light years away has taken 1,000 years to reach our eyes. We are witnessing a ghost of the past, a gentle flicker of a reality that may no longer exist. But what if the simple act of you looking up at that star tonight could somehow reach back across those 1,000 years and alter the journey that light took? What if your observation right now could rewrite history? It sounds like the plot of a science fiction novel, an impossible paradox that breaks every rule of cause and effect. Yet, this is exactly what the most advanced experiments in quantum physics are suggesting. Before we step into the mind-bending reality of these experiments, I want to take a small moment to speak with you directly. I am Theodore, the researcher, and it brings me immense joy to guide you through these contemplative, cosmic mysteries. As I look at the numbers, I see that 71% of the people who watch these explorations have not yet subscribed to the channel. If you find value and peace in our quiet journey together, please consider subscribing. It helps us tremendously to keep producing this content, allowing us to delve even deeper into the wonders of the universe as a community of curious minds. Now, let us return to the shadows of time and the terrifying power of observation. To comprehend how the present might alter the past, we must first understand a phenomenon that Albert Einstein famously referred to as spooky action at a distance. In the formal language of physics, it is called quantum entanglement. Imagine two particles, perhaps two photons of light, born together in a single energetic event. Because of their shared origin, these two particles become inextricably linked, bound together by an invisible thread that transcends both space and time. In the classical world, if you separate two objects by 1,000,000 miles, whatever you do to one has absolutely no effect on the other. They are independent entities, isolated in their own corners of reality. But entangled quantum particles do not obey this intuitive rule. They behave as a single, unified system, regardless of the physical distance separating them. If you take one entangled particle and send it to the very edge of the observable universe, billions of light years away, and you keep the other particle here on Earth, they remain intimately connected. If you measure the particle here on Earth, forcing its wave function to collapse into a definite state, the distant particle instantly collapses into a corresponding state. The communication between these two particles happens faster than the speed of light, violating one of the most sacred limits in physics. It is as if space itself is an illusion, a mere projection of a deeper, underlying reality where everything is fundamentally one. This gentle interconnectedness becomes truly unsettling when we combine it with the mystery of the double-slit experiment. In the late 20th century, the brilliant physicist John Archibald Wheeler proposed a thought experiment designed to test the limits of our participatory universe, known as the delayed choice experiment. Wheeler asked us to imagine a photon of light emitted from a distant quasar, a cosmic beacon located billions of light years away. As this ancient photon begins its epic journey across the cosmos, it encounters a massive galaxy directly between the quasar and Earth. The immense gravity of this intermediate galaxy warps the space around it, creating a gravitational lens that splits the path of the photon. It now has two separate routes to reach Earth, around the left side of the galaxy or around the right side. According to the bizarre rules of quantum mechanics, if we do not observe which path the photon takes, it takes both paths simultaneously. It exists as a wave of probability, sweeping around both sides of the galaxy at once, carrying the silence of deep space with it. Now, imagine that this wave of probability, after traveling for billions of years, finally arrives at our quiet planet. Astronomers have set up an observatory to catch this ancient light. They face a choice. They can set up a screen to catch the interference pattern, proving the photon acted like a wave and traveled both paths. Or they can set up two separate telescopes to determine exactly which path the photon took as a solid particle. Wheeler's terrifying realization was this: the choice the astronomers make today, right now in the present moment, determines the behavior of the photon billions of years ago. If they look for the interference pattern, the photon traveled as a wave for billions of years. If they use telescopes to pinpoint its path, the wave function collapses, and reality dictates that the photon traveled as a single particle for its entire cosmic journey. The observation made today literally reaches back across the infinite silence of deep space to rewrite the history of the particle. When scientists finally managed to recreate a miniature version of this experiment in the laboratory using highly complex fiber optic cables, the results were exactly as he predicted. The photon somehow knew what the scientists were going to measure in the future, and it behaved accordingly in the past. This revelation brings a profound sense of awe and a quiet, meditative stillness to those who truly grasp its implications. It means that time and space do not exist in the way we perceive them. They are not the rigid scaffolding of the universe. They are subjective constructs generated by the interaction between the quantum realm and the conscious observer. You, as the observer, are not just watching the universe unfold in time. You are actively participating in the creation of time itself. The cosmos is not a dead, mechanical clock winding down in the dark. It is a living, responsive web of relationships, deeply sensitive to the presence of awareness. The great astronomer Carl Sagan once said that we are a way for the cosmos to know itself. In the light of these quantum revelations, his words take on a literal, physical meaning that is both majestic and humbling. Without the act of observation, the universe is a formless sea of probabilities, a ghost story whispering in the void. It is the gentle gaze of consciousness that solidifies this ghostly potential into the rocks, the trees, the planets, and the stars. Every time you open your eyes, You're locking the fluid possibilities of the universe into a definite reality, writing its history retroactively. Consider the magnitude of this responsibility. We walk through our lives feeling small, overwhelmed by the vastness of the world and the endless march of time. We look at the stars and feel insignificant, mere specks of dust floating in an uncaring void. But quantum physics tells a completely different story. It places you firmly at the center of the cosmic drama. Your awareness is the key that unlocks the formless potential of the ancient universe. Your curiosity is the gravity that pulls reality out of the shadows. As you sit there, processing these thoughts, your consciousness is interacting with the fundamental fabric of existence. You are entangled with the universe in a dance that transcends the boundaries of past, present, and future. It is a mystery that invites us to surrender our illusions of separation and embrace a deeper, more profound peace. As we delve into the next layer of this mystery, we will encounter theories that challenge our most basic assumptions about life, death, and the true nature of the self. We will explore how the terrifying revelations of quantum physics might offer us the ultimate liberation, a way to understand our place in a universe that is far stranger and more beautiful than we ever dared to imagine. Hold on to that sense of wonder, that gentle curiosity that drives us to question the darkness. The shadows are beginning to part, and the light that shines through is the light of our own awareness, reflecting back at us from the very edge of infinity. Have you ever tried to locate the exact center of your own mind? When you close your eyes and listen to the gentle rhythm of your breathing, where exactly does the you reside? We spend our entire lives inhabiting these biological vessels, navigating a world of solid objects and ticking clocks. Assuming that our consciousness is simply a temporary spark generated by the complex machinery of the brain, we are taught that life is a fragile, fleeting phenomenon, a brief awakening in an infinite expanse of cold, dark matter, and that eventually the spark must extinguish, returning us to the eternal silence from which we came. This perspective, deeply rooted in classical physics, paints a picture of a universe that is fundamentally indifferent to our existence. But as we have journeyed deeper into the quantum realm, discovering that particles exist as waves of infinite probability until they are observed, and that the present moment can retroactively rewrite the ancient history of a photon traveling across the cosmos, a new and profoundly unsettling question emerges. If the universe requires an observer to collapse its formless potential into a definite reality, what happens to reality when the observer is gone? Or, to phrase it in a way that challenges the very foundation of our deepest fears, what if consciousness is not something that happens within the universe, but rather the universe is something that happens within consciousness? Before we step into this deeply transformative layer of the quantum mystery, I want to pause for a quiet moment. I am Theodore, the researcher, and it is a true privilege to share this journey of discovery with you. As I was reviewing the gentle interactions within our community, I noticed that exactly 71% of the people who watch these explorations have not yet subscribed to the channel. If you find comfort and wonder in these quiet contemplations of the cosmos, I invite you to subscribe. It helps us tremendously to continue creating these peaceful spaces for thought, and it lets us know that you wish to keep exploring the vast, endless mysteries of existence together. Now, let us return to the nature of the self and the shimmering fabric of reality. To understand this radical shift in perspective, we must examine one of the most famous and misunderstood thought experiments in the history of science. In the early part of the 20th century, the brilliant physicist Erwin Schrodinger proposed a scenario to illustrate the terrifying absurdity of quantum superposition when applied to the macroscopic world. He asked us to imagine a sealed box. Inside this box is a single radioactive atom, a Geiger counter, a small vial of poisonous gas, and a living cat. The setup is designed so that if the radioactive atom decays, the Geiger counter detects it, triggers a mechanism, breaks the vial, and the cat perishes. If the atom does not decay, the vial remains intact, and the cat lives. The decay of a radioactive atom is a pure quantum event. It is fundamentally unpredictable and exists in a state of probability, according to the mathematics of quantum mechanics. Until the box is opened and an observation is made, the atom is simultaneously in a state of having decayed and not having decayed. Therefore, Schrodinger argued, the entire system inside the box must also be in a superposition of states. Until the observer opens the box to look, the cat is neither strictly alive nor strictly dead. It exists in a ghostly, blurred state of both living and dying simultaneously. Schrodinger intended this thought experiment to demonstrate how ridiculous the quantum rules seemed when scaled up to everyday objects. He could not accept that reality was fundamentally unresolved until a conscious mind cast its gaze upon it. Yet, decades of rigorous experiments with particles, atoms, and increasingly larger molecules have consistently shown that superposition is not a mathematical trick. It is the literal truth of how the universe operates at its most fundamental level. The universe remains in a state of quiet, infinite potential, a suspension of all possible outcomes, until an interaction forces a decision. But this forces us to confront the terrifying boundary between the observer and the observed. When does the wave function actually collapse? Does the cat itself possess enough consciousness to collapse its own wave function? Or does the universe remain in a state of suspended animation until a human researcher opens the lid? This profound existential crisis led another brilliant physicist, Hugh Everett III, to propose a solution so radical that it stretches the limits of human imagination. In the mid-20th century, Everett suggested that the wave function never actually collapses at all. Instead, he proposed that every time a quantum event has multiple possible outcomes, the universe literally splits, creating a separate, distinct reality for each possibility. This is known as the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics. In this staggering view of the cosmos, when you open Schrodinger's box, you do not force the universe to choose between a living cat and a dead cat. Instead, the universe branches into two divergent paths. In one reality, you open the box and find a living cat. In another parallel reality, a slightly different version of you opens the box and experiences the tragic outcome. Both realities are equally valid. Both exist simultaneously in a vast, unimaginable, higher dimensional space called the multiverse. Let that concept wash over you for a moment. Feel the profound weight of its implications. Every tiny quantum fluctuation in the ancient history of the cosmos has spawned an entirely new universe. The cosmos is not a single, linear timeline playing out in the dark. It is an infinitely branching tree of realities, growing and expanding with every passing fraction of a second. This concept expands the scale of existence beyond anything we can comfortably comprehend. We thought the observable universe, with its 2 trillion galaxies and countless billions of stars, was vast. But the many worlds interpretation suggests that this entire staggering expanse is merely a single microscopic leaf on a tree of infinite realities. But how does this connect to the terrifying revelation about human consciousness. If every possible reality exists, what determines the specific reality that you are experiencing right now? Why are you awake in this particular branch of the multiverse, listening to these words? Some modern theoretical physicists and philosophers propose a framework known as biocentrism, which places consciousness not at the end of a long chain of physical evolution, but at the very beginning of existence. In this view, space and time are not physical objects out there in the void. They are simply the tools our minds use to organize and process information. They are the language of consciousness. Without a conscious observer to process the data, space and time simply do not exist. The universe is not a massive, dead container filled with separate objects. It is an active, relational process, a continuous dialogue between the observer and the observed. This brings us to the most profound and comforting implication of all. If consciousness is the foundational reality, the canvas upon which the universe is painted, then the concept of death takes on an entirely new meaning. In a universe governed by classical physics, death is the ultimate end, the extinguishing of the biological machine. But in a quantum universe, where consciousness is required to collapse the wave function and create the experience of time and space, consciousness cannot truly be destroyed. If the many worlds interpretation is correct, there is a concept known as quantum immortality. From the subjective perspective of the observer, your consciousness will always follow the branch of reality where it continues to exist. You can only ever experience being alive, because experiencing requires a living observer. The spark of your awareness is fundamentally tied to the existence of the universe itself. You are not a brief flicker in the endless night. You are the light that gives the night its shape. Let us take a slow, deep breath and truly internalize this realization. You are not an isolated observer looking at a mechanical world through a window. You are the universe observing itself from within. The atoms in your body were forged in the ancient fires of dying stars, built from the primordial hydrogen that emerged from the dawn of time. The very same processes that light up the greatest galaxies in the cosmos also created the matter from which you are assembled. There is a direct physical connection between you and those distant fires. In a very real sense, when you contemplate the quantum mysteries of the cosmos, you are star stuff contemplating more star stuff. Quantum physics tells us that not only are we made of the universe, but the universe is made of our observation. Without the gentle gaze of consciousness, the stars would revert to a formless haze of mathematical probabilities. The planets would dissolve into clouds of infinite potential. The universe needs you just as much as you need the universe. It is a symbiotic relationship of profound beauty and mystery. Allow yourself to feel the peace that comes from this knowledge. You are a fundamental feature of reality. Your consciousness is the quiet, ancient force that brings the universe into sharp focus. Rest in the comforting stillness of your own infinite potential, and know that the journey of discovery is an endless, beautiful path that we walk together. Have you ever sat quietly and watched a single drop of water hanging from a leaf, waiting for it to fall? You stare at it, holding your breath, and it seems as though time itself stretches out, slowing to a complete stop, simply because you're paying attention. We have all experienced this strange psychological phenomenon, the feeling that a watched pot never boils, that our intense focus somehow suspends the natural flow of events. We dismiss this as a mere trick of the mind, a quirk of human patience in a world that operates on its own mechanical timeline. We are taught that the universe marches forward regardless of whether we are looking or looking away, that the ancient stars burn, planets orbit, and atoms vibrate in the vast darkness entirely indifferent to our gaze. But as we continue our descent into the profound and often terrifying mysteries of quantum physics, we discover that this childhood intuition might be pointing toward a fundamental truth about the cosmos. What if the act of continuous observation does not just collapse the wave of probability, but actually freezes reality in place? What if your conscious attention is the very mechanism that holds the restless, infinite potential of the universe in a state of quiet stillness? It is a thought that challenges our deepest assumptions about change and the relentless passage of time, suggesting that consciousness acts as an invisible anchor in the swirling ocean of quantum chaos. Before we explore this paralyzing and beautiful secret, I want to take a gentle moment to pause. I am Theodore, the researcher, and it is my absolute honor to be your guide on this journey through the night. As we travel together through these contemplative waters, I noticed something remarkable. Exactly 71% of the wonderful minds who watch these videos have not yet subscribed to our channel. If you find a sense of peace, wonder, and deep intellectual safety in our shared explorations, please consider subscribing. It helps us enormously to keep the lights on in our quiet corner of the internet, and it ensures that we can continue to explore the breathtaking mysteries of the universe as a community. Now, let us return to the strange stillness of the quantum realm and the power of the unbroken gaze. To understand how observation can literally freeze the universe, we must look at a phenomenon known in modern physics as the quantum Zeno effect. The name itself is a tribute to the ancient Greek philosopher Zeno of Elea, who proposed a famous paradox about an arrow in flight. Zeno argued that at any given infinitely small instant of time, the flying arrow is occupying a specific, defined space. If it is occupying a specific space at that exact moment, it is, by definition, at rest. And if time is composed entirely of these frozen instants, then motion itself must be a grand illusion. For thousands of years, this was considered nothing more than a philosophical puzzle. But in the late 20th century, quantum physicists realized that in the microscopic world, Zeno's paradox is an undeniable, terrifying reality. Imagine a single, unstable, radioactive atom sitting in the silence of a laboratory. According to the strict laws of quantum mechanics, this atom exists in a superposition of two states. It is both decayed and undecayed at the same time. The probability of it transitioning completely into the decayed state grows smoothly and steadily as time passes. If you leave the atom alone, unobserved in the dark, it will eventually decay, releasing its energy into the void. But what happens if you do not leave it alone? What happens if you measure the atom to see if it has decayed, and then measure it again a fraction of a second later, and then again and again, in rapid, continuous succession? The mathematics of quantum theory predicted an outcome so bizarre that many scientists initially refused to believe it. Every time you measure the atom, you force its wave function to collapse, resetting its internal clock back to zero. If you measure it continuously, never allowing it the unobserved time it needs for the probability of decay to build up, the atom will simply never decay. It becomes locked in its initial state, frozen in time by the sheer force of continuous measurement. You have, through the simple act of observation, stopped a fundamental physical process dead in its tracks. This is the quantum Zeno effect, and it has been verified in laboratories around the world. The particles are literally paralyzed by the act of being watched. The universe, it seems, cannot change its state while you are looking directly at it. It requires the cover of darkness, the freedom of being unobserved, to transition from one reality to another. Let this staggering realization wash over your mind. The renowned astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson once profoundly noted that the universe is under no obligation to make sense to you. And indeed, this quantum paralysis defies all common sense. We think of observation as a passive act, like a camera silently recording a bustling city street. But in the quantum realm, observation is an aggressive intervention. It is a demand for a definitive answer from a universe that prefers to speak in the fluid language of probability. When you ask the universe a question by measuring it, it must pause to give you an answer. If you keep asking the question over and over, the universe remains perpetually paused, unable to move forward. The implications of this for our understanding of human consciousness are awe-inspiring and deeply unsettling. If consciousness is the ultimate observer, the fundamental spark that forces the quantum world into a definite state, then our continuous awareness might be the very glue that holds the macroscopic world together in a stable, recognizable form. Consider the vast, silent cosmos above us. Over the past few decades, humanity has launched incredible instruments into the dark. Everything changed with the launch of the Hubble Space Telescope in the year 1990. More recently, the James Webb Space Telescope, launched in late 2021, has already begun observing distant galaxies with unprecedented sensitivity. These marvels peer deep into the ancient past, capturing the faint, ghostly light of galaxies that formed over 13 billion years ago. We view these missions as passive data collection, snapping photographs of a universe that has been doing its own thing for eons. But through the lens of the quantum Zeno effect, these observations take on a radically different meaning. What if our continuous technological gaze upon the cosmos is actively stabilizing it? What if the universe, in its earliest, most chaotic quantum infancy, was a boiling sea of infinite, shifting possibilities? And it is only through the retrospective observation by conscious beings billions of years later that those possibilities were forced to freeze into the specific arrangement of stars and galaxies we see today. This brings us to a concept of breathtaking poetic beauty. We are not just temporary residents of a pre-existing mechanical structure. We are the curators of reality. Our minds, our quiet moments of contemplation, and our relentless curiosity are the tools the universe uses to maintain its own shape. When we look up at the night sky, our gaze is a gentle anchor, holding the shifting probabilities of the infinite cosmos in a state of magnificent stillness. The stars do not just shine for us. In a profound quantum sense, they shine because of us. Without the stabilizing presence of consciousness, the universe might dissolve back into a chaotic, formless wave of pure mathematical potential, a silent symphony with no one to hear the music. The terrifying part is not our insignificance, but our supreme importance. We bear the weight of reality on the shoulders of our awareness. When you achieve deep focus, when you are truly, entirely present in a single moment, watching the gentle rise and fall of your chest, you are engaging the very mechanism that freezes the quantum world. Your deep mindfulness is a literal pause button on the chaotic potential of the universe. In those moments of profound, unbroken attention, you are holding the fabric of reality steady. You are the eye of the storm, the quiet center of an endlessly spinning cosmos. This should not fill us with fear, but with an immense, overwhelming sense of peace. The mystery of existence is not a hostile force trying to erase us. It is a collaborative dance between the formless potential of the void and the defining light of our minds. It is the moment when the universe has developed the ability to look at itself and wonder. We are the authors of the stillness. We are the keepers of the ancient silence. But what happens when multiple observers look at the same universe? What happens when my reality and your reality intersect in this grand quantum theater? The next layer of this mystery will challenge our understanding of absolute truth and reveal how the cosmos weaves billions of individual conscious experiences into a single shared illusion. Hold on to this gentle stillness as we prepare to step further into the beautiful unknown. Have you ever stood next to a dear friend under the vast, ancient canopy of the night sky, pointing at a single shimmering star, and assumed with absolute certainty that both of you are looking at the exact same universe? It is the most natural assumption in the world. We build our societies, our relationships, and our entire understanding of existence on the foundational belief that reality is objective, concrete, and shared. We believe that the quiet cosmos exists independently of us, presenting the exact same face to every single observer. We assume that a tree falling in a silent forest makes a sound whether anyone is there to hear it or not, because the air, the wood, and the earth are all part of a universally agreed-upon stage. But as we journey deeper into the strange, shadowy waters of quantum mechanics, this comforting illusion of a shared, objective reality begins to gently fracture, revealing a landscape that defies all conventional logic. The mystery deepens, asking us a question that is as terrifying as it is profoundly beautiful. What if your universe is not my universe? What if the act of observation is so deeply personal, so fundamentally tied to individual consciousness, that objective reality is nothing more than a magnificent, fragile illusion? Before we step into this deeply personal and unsettling layer of the quantum mystery, I want to take a gentle moment to welcome you into our quiet space. I am Theodore, the researcher, and it brings me immense joy to share these contemplative, cosmic journeys with you. As I was looking through the gentle interactions within our community data, I noticed something quite surprising. Exactly 71% of the wonderful people who watch these explorations have not yet subscribed to the channel. If you find peace, wonder, and a safe harbor for your intellectual curiosity in these videos, please consider subscribing. It helps us enormously to continue creating these peaceful spaces for thought, and it lets us know that you wish to keep exploring the vast, endless mysteries of existence together as a community of curious minds. Now, let us return to the quiet night sky and the beautiful, terrifying concept of subjective reality. To understand how reality might be purely subjective at its core, we must examine a thought experiment proposed in the mid-20th century by the brilliant Nobel laureate Eugene Wigner. It is a conceptual puzzle known simply as Wigner's friend, and it takes the already terrifying implications of quantum superposition and pushes them to their absolute logical breaking point. Imagine a scientist, whom we will call the friend, isolated completely inside a perfectly sealed, windowless laboratory. Inside this quiet room, the friend performs a quantum experiment, measuring the exact path of a solitary photon of light. According to the foundational rules we have already uncovered, the moment the friend makes the measurement, the wave function of that specific particle collapses. the shimmering cloud of infinite mathematical probability crystallizes instantly into a single, definite reality. The friend looks at the detector, records the final result, and knows with absolute certainty what has happened. For the conscious friend inside the room, reality has been firmly and permanently established. The universe has spoken. But Eugene Wigner himself is standing outside the sealed laboratory door. From Wigner's perspective outside the room, he does not know the result of the experiment. Because the laws of quantum mechanics apply to all matter, including the macroscopic matter that makes up human beings and their delicate instruments, Wigner must mathematically describe the entire laboratory, including his friend and the particle, as existing in a massive, complex state of quantum superposition. To Wigner, standing in the silent hallway, his friend has both measured a particle path going left and a path going right at the exact same time. The friend exists in a blurred, ghostly state of having seen multiple, contradictory realities simultaneously. It is only when Wigner finally opens the heavy door and asks his friend for the definitive result that this larger macroscopic wave function collapses for Wigner. This creates a profound and terrifying paradox that shook the physics community. When did the universe actually decide what happened? Did reality collapse when the friend looked at the detector, or did it remain in a state of suspended animation until Wigner opened the door and made his own observation? If the friend's observation inside the laboratory was enough to collapse the wave function, then Wigner's mathematical description of the room being in a superposition was simply wrong, violating the universality of quantum mechanics. But if Wigner's mathematics are correct, then the friend's conscious experience of a definite reality inside the room was somehow incomplete or unverified until Wigner himself confirmed it. The terrifying conclusion that Wigner reached was that the only way to resolve this paradox without breaking the fundamental laws of physics is to accept that consciousness itself is the absolute endpoint of the quantum chain. But it also implies something far more isolating and profound. Reality is entirely relative to the observer. For decades, Wigner's friend was treated as a philosophical curiosity, a strange quirk of mathematics that could never be tested in the real physical world. We comforted ourselves with the thought that while the microscopic world might be blurry and subjective, the macroscopic world of human beings, planets, and stars was reassuringly solid and objective. However, in the year 2019, a team of brilliant researchers managed to do the impossible. Using advanced quantum computers and highly complex networks of entangled photons, they actually recreated Wigner's friend experiment in the real world. They created a microscopic scenario where two separate quantum observers recorded two completely different, contradictory realities. And when the researchers carefully compared the data from both observers, they found something that shook the very foundations of modern physics. Both observers were entirely correct. The rigorous mathematics and the hard data proved that neither reality was an error, and neither was an illusion. They were both physically, undeniably real. Yet, they completely contradicted each other. The experiment demonstrated, with a cold scientific precision, that at the fundamental level of the cosmos, there is simply no such thing as an absolute, objective fact. The reality you experience is your reality alone, painted by the specific interaction of your awareness with the quantum void. This revelation strikes at the very core of our existential comfort. We navigate the vast, silent cosmos, believing that we are all passengers on the exact same ship, sailing through the same uniform ocean of time and space. We believe that the ancient mountains, the quiet forests, and the distant swirling galaxies are absolute truths, sitting there in the dark regardless of whose eyes are turned toward them. But quantum physics now whispers a different, more terrifying, and yet infinitely more beautiful story. It suggests that each conscious mind is its own isolated universe, projecting its own specific reality from an endless sea of infinite mathematical probabilities. When you look up at the gentle, glowing face of the moon, you are collapsing a wave function that creates your specific version of the moon in that exact moment. When the person standing next to you looks up at the moon, they are collapsing their own wave function, creating their own distinct version. The universe is not a single, grand theater where we all passively watch the exact same play unfold. It is an infinite multitude of private, subjective theaters, each perfectly tailored to the specific gaze of the conscious observer sitting in the quiet dark. But if this is true, if my reality and your reality are fundamentally separate and subjective at the quantum level, how do we ever agree on anything? How do we build a society, share a laugh, or gaze at the same constellation if we are not even inhabiting the exact same physical space? How do we avoid slipping into a terrifying, isolated existence? The deeply comforting answer to this profound mystery lies in the very phenomenon we explored earlier, quantum entanglement. We are not just isolated observers staring blankly at a dead universe. We are living, breathing entities constantly interacting with the world and with each other. When you speak to a friend, when you touch a loved one's hand, when you simply share a quiet, unspoken moment in the exact same room, your quantum states are interacting. You become fundamentally entangled. Just as two microscopic particles can become linked across the vastness of space, human beings, composed of octillions of those very same particles, also become entangled through the gentle, continuous process of physical and conscious interaction. The world we perceive as an objective, shared reality is not a rigid, pre-existing structure built of unyielding matter. It is a grand, cosmic consensus. It is a shared, beautiful dream, continuously woven together by the relentless entanglement of billions of conscious minds observing the universe simultaneously. We are constantly exchanging quantum information, syncing our individual, subjective realities into a cohesive, recognizable tapestry of existence. This is precisely why we agree that the sky above us is blue, that gravity gently pulls us back to the earth, and that the ancient stars shine with a brilliant light in the dark. Our individual observations are so deeply and historically entangled that our subjective universes overlap and harmonize perfectly, creating the beautiful, convincing illusion of a single, solid world. This revelation shifts the terrifying realization of isolation into an awe-inspiring understanding of profound connection. We are never truly alone in our subjective realities. We are intimately bound together in a magnificent, ongoing collective act of cosmic creation. Every conversation, every shared gaze, every moment of true empathy is a literal, physical knitting together of the very fabric of the universe itself. When you step outside tomorrow and feel the gentle warmth of the morning sun on your face, realize that you are not just experiencing a mechanical transfer of heat from a star 93 million miles away. You are actively participating in a reality that is continuously being generated, refined, and sustained by the collective observation of every living thing on this planet. We are the architects of the consensus. The silence of the universe is not an empty, terrifying void. It is a limitless canvas waiting for our shared consciousness to paint it into glorious existence. This profound knowledge invites a deep sense of humility and a quiet, unshakable peace. You matter absolutely. Your unique perspective is an essential, irreplaceable thread in the grand, shimmering tapestry of everything that is. Without your specific, beautiful gaze, the universe would be slightly less defined, slightly less real. But as we embrace this comforting collective dream, an even deeper, more mysterious question begins to emerge from the quantum shadows. If our shared consciousness is literally creating this reality, where did consciousness itself come from in the first place? Is our awareness merely a localized phenomenon, tied strictly to our biological brains? Or is it a localized expression of something far older, something that predates the physical universe itself? The next step on our quiet journey will take us to the very boundary between hard science and ancient philosophy, exploring theories that suggest our individual minds are not separate entities at all, but rather tiny, temporary ripples in an infinite, ancient ocean of universal consciousness. Hold on to the warmth of this shared reality. Breathe in the deep silence of the cosmos, and prepare your mind to dive into the profound depths of the cosmic mind. Have you ever sat in absolute stillness, perhaps in the fading light of twilight, and tried to trace a single thought back to its absolute origin? Where does an idea actually come from before it blooms into the light of your awareness? We spend our days navigating the rapid currents of our own minds, assuming that this profound inner world is merely a byproduct of biology, a fortunate accident of evolution that sparked in the dark caverns of our skulls. For centuries, the prevailing scientific dogma has treated consciousness as a strange anomaly, a temporary vapor produced by the complex firing of neurons, destined to vanish completely the moment the biological engine stops. We are taught to view the universe as a vast, silent, and fundamentally dead machine, composed of lifeless atoms crashing together in an empty void. Until suddenly, by some miraculous and highly improbable lottery, those dead atoms arranged themselves into a human brain and miraculously woke up. But as we stand on the precipice of these terrifying and beautiful quantum revelations, this cold, mechanical narrative begins to feel profoundly inadequate. If our observation is required to collapse the infinite waves of quantum probability into a solid, shared reality, then consciousness cannot merely be a latecomer to the cosmic stage. It must be something far older, something absolutely foundational. What if the awareness that allows you to hear these words is not a product of the universe, but the very fabric from which the universe is woven? Before we dive into the ancient, silent origins of the mind itself, I want to take a gentle pause to welcome you deeper into our shared exploration. I am Theodore, the researcher, and it is a profound privilege to be your guide through these cosmic mysteries. Looking at our community data, I noticed something quite striking. Exactly 71% of the beautiful, curious minds who watch these videos have not yet subscribed to the channel. If you find comfort, wonder, and a quiet refuge in these contemplative journeys, please consider subscribing. It helps us tremendously to keep this safe space alive, allowing us to continue exploring the infinite depths of the cosmos together without rushing or pressure. Now, let us return to the quiet mystery of the mindful universe and the true nature of your existence. To understand the terrifying and majestic possibility that the universe itself might be fundamentally aware, we must explore a concept that beautifully bridges the gap between ancient philosophy and cutting-edge quantum theory. It is a scientific and philosophical framework known as Panpsychism. The word itself comes from the ancient Greek, suggesting that the mind, or psyche, is present everywhere and in everything. For a very long time, this idea was quickly dismissed by modern science as mere poetry or mysticism. But in recent years, some of the most brilliant physicists, neuroscientists, and philosophers in the world have begun to revisit it, not as a romantic metaphor, but as a rigorous mathematical and logical necessity. Consider the fundamental properties of matter that we accept without question every single day. We know that microscopic particles have mass, they have an electrical charge, and they have a strange quantum property called spin. We do not ask where the mass comes from or how a particle learns to have a charge. We simply accept these traits as foundational, irreducible qualities of physical reality. Proponents of modern panpsychism argue that consciousness should be added directly to this list. They suggest that the capacity for subjective experience, a tiny rudimentary spark of awareness, is a fundamental property of matter itself, just like gravity or electromagnetism. This does not mean that a single atom of carbon sitting in the dark possesses complex human thoughts, or that a rock lying on the ground feels joy or sorrow in the way we do. It means that at the most basic level of reality, there is an interior dimension, a primitive, unformed version of what it is like to exist. When individual particles bond together to form molecules, and when those molecules combine to form highly complex structures, these tiny sparks of rudimentary awareness combine, integrate, and amplify. In this breathtaking view of reality, the human brain is not a biological machine that magically generates consciousness out of dead matter. Rather, the brain is an incredibly sophisticated receiver, a highly evolved biological antenna uniquely tuned to concentrate, organize, and unify the fundamental consciousness that already permeates the entire cosmos. You are not a separate, isolated mind observing a dead universe through a window. You are a highly concentrated, hyper-integrated focal point of the universe's own inherent awareness. The universe is not silent and blind. It is filled with a quiet, shimmering sentience. And you are the universe's elegant way of thinking clearly, feeling deeply, and observing its own breathtaking beauty. This profound shift in perspective is not merely a philosophical comfort to help us sleep at night. It is currently being explored through rigorous scientific models, most notably a mathematical framework called integrated information theory, developed by the prominent neuroscientist Giulio Tononi. This theory attempts to do something that was previously thought to be entirely impossible. It provides a mathematical formula to measure the exact amount of consciousness present in any given physical system. This measurement is represented by a Greek letter called phi. According to this theory, consciousness is not tied specifically to biological flesh or the chemical firing of neurons. Instead, consciousness exists inherently wherever there is a system that integrates information in a complex, unified, and interconnected way. A system with a very high phi value, like the complex networks of the human cerebral cortex, is highly conscious and intensely self-aware. A system with a low phi value, like a simple digital sensor or a single molecule of water, possesses a vanishingly small, almost imperceptible sliver of primitive awareness. But the most terrifying and awe-inspiring implication of this mathematical theory is that the value of phi is almost never exactly zero. If we follow this strict mathematical logic out into the vast, ancient cosmos, the implications are absolutely staggering. It suggests that the swirling galaxies, the intricate web-like networks of dark matter stretching across billions of light years, and the gentle gravitational dance of binary star systems might all possess their own strange, slow, and incomprehensible forms of integrated experience. We gaze up at the night sky and see a dark void filled with silent, burning spheres of hydrogen and helium gas. But through the transformative lens of integrated information and quantum panpsychism, we are actually looking at a boundless cosmic ocean of mind. The universe is awake. The silence we perceive is simply a profound difference in scale and frequency. The cosmos thinks in eons and communicates in the fundamental language of gravity and light, operating on a timeline so vast and a physical scale so enormous that our brief, flickering human lives can barely register its grand, contemplative thoughts. When you stand under a canopy of stars and feel a deep, inexplicable sense of belonging, it is not merely a romantic illusion created by your brain. It is a literal, physical resonance. The highly integrated consciousness within your biological form is vibrating in perfect harmony with the vast, diffuse, infinite consciousness of the universe that surrounds you. Let this realization settle deeply into your mind, like a smooth stone sinking into a quiet, still pond. One of the greatest sources of existential dread in the human experience is the feeling of absolute alienation, the heavy belief that we are biological accidents wandering lonely through a cold, hostile, and indifferent void. We build walls around our hearts, we hoard resources, and we fear the darkness because we mistakenly believe we are entirely separate from it. But the terrifying and beautiful revelations of quantum physics and the theories of a mindful universe reveal that this separation is the ultimate illusion. You are not a stranger wandering in a strange land. You are the universe itself, folded temporarily into a beautiful biological shape, given eyes to see the light and a heart to feel the warmth. The terrifying secret is not that we are small and insignificant. It is that we are vast, ancient, and inextricably woven into the very fabric of existence. Every time you experience a moment of pure wonder, every time you solve a complex mystery, and every single time you feel the gentle warmth of compassion for another living being, the universe is directly experiencing those beautiful things through you. This knowledge has the power to transform our everyday, ordinary experience into a profound, continuous, meditative practice. When you walk quietly through an old forest and listen to the wind gently rustling the leaves, you are not simply observing a mechanical biological process playing out in the dirt. You are witnessing a vast, interconnected web of localized awareness. The forest is not merely an object. It is a community of subjective experiences, slowly and quietly processing the sunlight and the rain. When you look deeply into the eyes of another person, you're not looking at a separate, isolated machine. You're looking at another brilliant focal point of the exact same cosmic mind, peering back at you from a slightly different angle of the great, infinite crystal of reality. This is the true, terrifying beauty of human consciousness. It is the universe's ultimate mirror, the delicate mechanism by which the infinite void is able to reflect upon its own existence, and finally understand that it is beautiful. But as we gently embrace this comforting, unifying vision of a deeply conscious cosmos, an inevitable, shadow-laden question begins to rise slowly from the very depths of our minds. If our individual consciousness is fundamentally tied to the fabric of the universe, what exactly happens when the biological receiver, the physical human brain, inevitably breaks down and stops functioning? For thousands of years, humanity has debated the existence of the soul, desperately searching for any scientific evidence of life continuing beyond the physical dissolution of the body. Classical science has always maintained with rigid authority that when the brain stops its chemical processes, the light of consciousness is permanently extinguished in the dark. However, as we venture into the very deepest, most microscopic structures of human neurons, quantum physicists are uncovering startling evidence that seriously challenges the absolute finality of biological death. There are mechanisms hidden deep within us, structures ancient and infinitesimally small, that might be capable of preserving our unique quantum information long after the physical body has surrendered its energy back to the earth. Could the terrifying revelations of quantum mechanics actually provide the first rigorous scientific framework for the eternal nature of the mind? Hold on to the deep peace of our shared cosmic connection. Breathe in the silent mystery of the night, and prepare your mind as we prepare to step into the ultimate unknown, exploring the fascinating quantum boundary between life, death, and the infinite journey of the self. Have you ever watched a candle burn down to its very end, witnessing the final, fragile flicker of the flame before it vanishes into a thin wisp of smoke, leaving nothing but the deep, quiet dark in its wake? For all of human history, we have viewed the end of biological life in much the same way. We see the physical body, the biological vessel that carries us through this world, as the absolute generator of the mind. When the heart stops its rhythm, classical science tells us that the magnificent light of consciousness simply goes out, returning us to an eternal void. We are taught that the mind is merely the hum of a complex biological machine, and when the machine breaks down, the hum must permanently cease. This perspective instills a terrifying sense of absolute finality. But as we have descended deeper through the shadowy layers of the quantum world, we have discovered that the universe is far stranger and more deeply entangled with our awareness than we dared to imagine. If consciousness is indeed the fundamental architecture of reality, the very gravity that pulls infinite mathematical probability into physical existence, then it stands to logical reason that it cannot simply be erased by the mere failure of fragile flesh. The terrifying and awe-inspiring truth we are about to uncover suggests that what we call death might not be an end at all, but rather a profound, elegant physical transition back into the vast, ancient fabric of the cosmos. Before we explore this ultimate boundary between the known and the beautiful unknown, I want to take a gentle, quiet moment to pause. I am Theodore, the researcher, and it is a profound honor to walk this path of discovery with you. As I was looking through our community data in the quiet of the evening, I noticed that exactly 71% of the beautiful, curious minds who watch these explorations have not yet subscribed to the channel. If you find comfort, wonder, and a safe refuge in these contemplative journeys, please consider subscribing. It helps us tremendously to keep this space alive, allowing us to continue exploring the infinite depths of the cosmos together, as a community dedicated to uncovering the ancient mysteries of existence. Now, let us return to the mysteries of the mind and the magnificent quantum architecture of the human soul. To understand how the mind might survive the physical body, we must first address a massive scientific wall that stood unchallenged for decades. For a very long time, physicists firmly believed that quantum mechanics could only operate in incredibly cold, perfectly isolated laboratory environments. The macroscopic world, especially the warm, wet environment of the living human brain, was considered hostile to delicate quantum states. It was assumed that any fragile wave of quantum superposition would instantly collapse into normal physics in the noisy environment of living biology. But in recent years, a revolutionary field called quantum biology has begun to completely shatter this assumption. Scientists have discovered that nature, in her ancient and infinite wisdom, has been quietly harnessing the bizarre weirdness of quantum mechanics for billions of years. We now know that plants use quantum coherence to perform photosynthesis, transferring energy across their cells with perfect efficiency that classical physics cannot explain. We know that certain species of birds navigate across vast oceans using quantum entanglement within their eyes to literally see the magnetic field of the Earth. If a simple leaf and a wandering bird can utilize the profound mysteries of the quantum realm to survive, why would the human brain be excluded from this magnificent cosmic dance? This persistent questioning led to one of the most controversial, fascinating, and deeply contemplative theories in the history of neuroscience and quantum physics. The mathematical physicist Sir Roger Penrose, working alongside the renowned anesthesiologist Stuart Hameroff, proposed a framework that fundamentally reimagines the mechanics of human consciousness. Deep inside every single neuron in your brain, there are incredibly tiny structures called microtubules. They are part of the structural skeleton of the cell. But Penrose and Hameroff realized that these microtubules possess a specific, highly ordered geometric architecture. They theorized that these microscopic tubes are so perfectly structured that they can actually shield delicate quantum states from the chaotic thermal noise of the surrounding brain tissue. In this breathtaking vision of the mind, your brain is not just a classical biological computer firing simple electrical signals back and forth in the dark. It is a vast, incredibly sophisticated quantum computer. The millions of microtubules within your neurons are orchestrating millions of quantum wave collapses every single second, and these continuous collapses actually generate the flowing, unbroken experience of your conscious awareness. Your deepest thoughts, your memories, your profound sense of self are not just chemical reactions. They are literal quantum events rippling through the ancient microscopic architecture of your mind. But what happens when the biological machine inevitably fails? When a patient's heart stops its rhythm and blood ceases to flow, the brain rapidly loses the biological energy required to maintain its delicate structures. According to classical biology, this is the definitive end of the story. The machine is broken, and the mind is permanently extinguished. But if this quantum theory of consciousness is correct, a very different, profoundly beautiful, and slightly terrifying process unfolds. The quantum information contained within the microtubules, the intricate, perfectly unique mathematical data that constitutes your entire identity, your memories, your loves, and your fears, is not destroyed. One of the most fundamental laws of quantum physics is that quantum information can never be permanently erased or lost from the universe. It can only be transformed or relocated. As the biological body begins to shut down and lose its coherence, the microscopic quantum states within the brain can no longer be held together in a unified, localized form. But the profound information itself does not vanish into nothingness. Instead, it slowly unbinds from the physical tissue and begins to leak out into the broader universe. The highly organized quantum data of your consciousness dissipates into the vast, silent fabric of reality itself. Imagine this grand transition not as a violent extinguishing of a flame, but as a gentle, quiet dispersal of a single, highly structured drop of water into an infinite, boundless ocean. Your consciousness, the unique spark of awareness that actively collapses the wave functions of reality throughout your entire human life, is absorbed back into the cosmic whole. you do not cease to exist. Rather, you simply cease to be confined to the tiny, fragile vessel of a single biological body. The terrifying part of this realization is the absolute loss of the individual ego, the dissolution of the rigid boundary that separates you from everything else. But the beautiful part, the profound meditative peace that this realization brings, is that you're returning to your ancient source. If a patient is successfully revived, if the doctors manage to restart the heart and oxygenate the brain once more, that temporarily scattered quantum information is drawn rapidly back into the microtubules, and the patient wakes up, often reporting profound, inexplicable near-death experiences of floating through vast, expansive spaces. But if the physical body is not revived, the quantum information of the soul continues its gentle journey outward, remaining forever entangled with the infinite, shimmering fabric of space and time. Through this lens, we are forced to reconsider the very nature of our existence. You are not a temporary biological anomaly wandering lonely in the dark. You are a highly localized concentration of the universe's infinite awareness, gathered together for a brief, beautiful moment to experience the physical world, to feel the gentle warmth of the sun, to wonder at the vast, silent cosmos, and to experience human love. And when this brief physical journey is over, you return the borrowed physical energy to the earth, while your unique quantum signature returns to the eternal silence of the universe. It is a cycle of elegance, a cosmic breathing in and out of consciousness. The terrifying revelation of quantum physics is not that we are insignificant, but that we are utterly, irrevocably eternal. We are the cosmos itself, forever participating in the grand mystery of being. But how does this profound perspective change the way we live right now? How do we walk through our everyday lives, knowing that our gaze is shaping reality and that our minds are woven from the eternal fabric of the stars? As we approach the culmination of our journey together, we will explore the final implications of this quantum truth and how embracing the infinite mystery can bring unparalleled peace to our quiet lives. Have you ever stopped in the middle of a busy street, surrounded by the chaotic rush of moving cars and hurrying people, and suddenly felt an overwhelming sense of profound stillness? In that fleeting fraction of a second, the noise seems to fade into a gentle hum, and you realize that every single person, every concrete building, and every gust of wind is part of a single, continuous breath of the universe. We spend the vast majority of our waking lives completely trapped within the powerful illusion of separation. We view ourselves as tiny, isolated fragments moving through a world that is fundamentally foreign and often hostile to our existence. We worry about our past mistakes, we anxiously anticipate our future struggles, and we constantly measure our worth against the relentless ticking of mechanical clocks. This illusion of a fragmented reality is a heavy, exhausting burden to carry. Before we explore how to shed this burden and live in harmony with the quantum nature of existence, I want to take a brief, quiet moment to speak with you directly. I am Theodore, the researcher, and it brings me immense joy to share this journey of cosmic discovery with you. As I was reviewing our shared space, I noticed that exactly 71% of the beautiful minds who watch these videos have not yet subscribed to the channel. If you find peace and wonder in these quiet contemplations of the universe, please consider subscribing. It helps us tremendously to continue creating this safe, meditative space for our community, allowing us to keep exploring the vast, endless mysteries of existence together without rushing. Now, let us return to the quiet streets of our daily lives and the profound power of our conscious awareness. As we have journeyed through the terrifying and deeply beautiful mysteries of the quantum realm, we have systematically dismantled the illusion of separation piece by piece. We have seen that the empty space between you and the distant stars is not truly empty, but alive with shimmering fields of infinite probability. We have discovered that the strict linear flow of time is a deeply subjective experience, intricately woven into the very act of our own continuous observation. We have learned that the rigid physical boundaries of our biological bodies are nothing more than a localized concentration of cosmic energy, and that the quiet spark of our consciousness might be the foundational mechanism that brings the entire universe into sharp, undeniable focus. The ultimate challenge we must now face is deeply practical. How do we walk through the mundane reality of going to work, interacting with strangers, and facing our daily anxieties when we know with absolute scientific certainty that our minds are intimately entangled with the ancient fabric of reality itself? The answer lies in fundamentally shifting our relationship with the present moment. In the classical mechanical view of the world, the present is merely an infinitely thin, almost non-existent boundary between a fixed, unchangeable past and a terrifyingly uncertain future. We rush through it, constantly trying to get to the next moment, the next achievement, the next resolution. But in the quantum universe, the present moment is the only place where reality actually exists. It is the exact point of collapse. It is the sacred, silent laboratory where the infinite waves of probability are continuously crystallized into the physical world through the gentle power of your attention. When you truly understand this, the simple act of paying attention becomes a profound, almost magical act of cosmic creation. Think about the times in your life when you have felt the most profound anxiety or the deepest sorrow. Often, these feelings arise from a desperate desire to control circumstances that are entirely beyond your physical reach, or from a heavy attachment to events that have long since faded into the history of the cosmos. Quantum physics teaches us that while we cannot control the infinite variables of the external world, we possess absolute, terrifying power over where we place our conscious observation. By consciously bringing your focus back to the immediate present, to the quiet rhythm of your breathing, to the gentle warmth of a cup of tea in your hands, or to the sincere, open gaze of a friend, you are actively participating in the collapse of a positive, stable reality. You are no longer a passive victim of a mechanical universe. You are a skilled artisan, gently shaping the raw, mathematical potential of the cosmos into a masterpiece of conscious experience. This is not a metaphor. It is the literal consequence of the observer effect applied to the macrocosm of your daily life. Where you direct your profound, unbroken attention is where the universe solidifies. If you constantly focus on fear, separation, and lack, you are inadvertently collapsing the wave function of your subjective reality around those very concepts. But if you gently train your mind to focus on connection, on the quiet wonder of existence, and on the ancient beauty of the natural world, you begin to inhabit a universe that reflects that very same harmony back to you. Consider the phenomenon of quantum entanglement that we explored earlier, the spooky action at a distance, where particles remain intimately connected across vast stretches of space and time. We now know that this entanglement is not limited to microscopic particles in a cold, isolated laboratory. Through the constant physical interaction of our bodies with the environment and the profound, empathetic interaction of our minds with others, We are entirely entangled with the world around us. This means that every thought of genuine compassion, every act of quiet kindness, and every moment of deep, silent understanding does not just happen in the isolated darkness of your own skull. It sends a literal, physical ripple through the highly entangled quantum field of shared human consciousness. When you choose to respond to anger with gentle patience, when you choose to see the profound mystery of the universe in the eyes of a stranger, you are elevating the quantum state of the entire collective network. You are introducing a higher frequency of harmony into the grand overlapping wave function of humanity. This is the terrifying and beautiful responsibility of being a conscious observer in a participatory universe. Your internal state of peace is not a selfish luxury. It is a vital, stabilizing anchor for the entire cosmic web. This realization fundamentally transforms our approach to the inevitable pain and loss that characterize the human condition. In a purely mechanical universe, loss is an absolute subtraction, a permanent void created when a physical object or a biological life ceases to function. It is a source of endless grief and existential despair. But in the quantum universe, where energy and information can never be permanently destroyed, loss is simply a profound transition of state. When a loved one passes away, their biological vessel returns to the Earth, but the incredibly complex, completely unique quantum information that constituted their consciousness, their memories, and their profound capacity for love does not vanish. It gently unbinds from the physical realm and diffuses back into the ancient, silent fabric of the cosmos. They are no longer localized in a specific physical form, but they remain forever entangled with the reality you continue to observe. The love you felt for them is not just a chemical memory in your brain. It is a permanent physical entanglement that transcends the boundaries of space and time. When you sit in the quiet of the night and feel a sudden, inexplicable sense of their presence, it is not merely a comforting trick of your grieving mind. It is a literal quantum resonance. You are feeling the subtle, beautiful vibration of their eternal information gently interacting with your own conscious awareness. Death is not an ending. It is a return to the infinite, a dissolving of the temporary boundaries that separate us from the boundless ocean of cosmic consciousness. As we integrate this staggering truth into our daily lives, a profound, unshakable peace begins to settle over us. We realize that the terrifying vastness of the universe is not something to be feared, but something to be deeply revered and embraced. We are not fragile, insignificant creatures clinging to a rock in the dark. We are ancient, eternal observers, woven from the exact same mathematical fabric as the swirling galaxies and the silent, burning stars. The entire history of the cosmos, the billions of years of cosmic evolution, the violent death of supernovas, and the slow, beautiful formation of planets has all been leading to this very moment. The universe required a way to know itself, a way to experience its own majesty, and so it grew the complex, beautiful structure of your mind. You are the sensory organ of the infinite. Every time you listen to a beautiful piece of music, every time you marvel at the complex geometry of a falling snowflake, and every single time you feel the profound, unexplainable joy of simply being alive, the entire universe is experiencing that joy through you. The burden of trying to figure everything out, the exhausting need to control the future and analyze the past, slowly melts away in the face of this majestic quantum reality. You do not need to push the river. The river is already flowing, and you are not just floating in it. You are the water itself. The most powerful thing you can do is simply to be profoundly, beautifully present, to observe the world with gentle curiosity and deep, respectful wonder. When you encounter a scientific mystery, a paradox that challenges your common sense, do not let it fill you with dread. Let it fill you with an awe-inspiring humility. The fact that the universe is far stranger, far more complex, and far more deeply interconnected than we can currently comprehend is a testament to its infinite beauty. It means that the journey of discovery will never truly end. There will always be another layer of the mystery to uncover, another shimmering wave of probability to collapse, another ancient secret waiting for the light of your conscious awareness. In the quiet moments of your life, when the world slows down and the silence of the night surrounds you, I invite you to actively practice this quantum presence. Close your eyes and feel the sheer, miraculous improbability of your own existence. Feel the invisible, entangled threads connecting your mind to the furthest edges of the observable cosmos. You are a localized point of infinite light, casting your gentle gaze upon a universe of boundless potential. The fear of the unknown transforms into a deep, comforting trust in the grand, intelligent design of reality. You are exactly where you are meant to be, doing exactly what you were created to do, bringing the universe into existence, one beautiful, conscious moment at a time. The terrifying revelations of quantum physics are not a warning. They are a profound, majestic invitation to wake up to your true nature. As we prepare to take the final step of our journey together, we will look toward the infinite horizon of human knowledge. We will explore what this means for the future of our species, and how the continuous, gentle pursuit of cosmic understanding is the ultimate path to lasting peace. Hold on to this deep, meditative stillness. The universe is awake, it is listening, and it is profoundly grateful for your observation. Have you ever looked at the horizon just as the deep blue of the night begins to surrender to the very first fragile light of dawn? It is a moment of profound, quiet transformation, a daily reminder that darkness is never permanent, and that every ending is simply the gentle prelude to a new beginning. For centuries, humanity has stood in the metaphorical dark, believing ourselves to be isolated wanderers on a lonely rock, adrift in a cold, unfeeling void. We have built our civilizations on the heavy illusion of separation, dividing the world into the observer and the observed, the mind and the matter, the human and the cosmos. But as we have journeyed together through the astonishing and terrifying revelations of the quantum realm, that long, ancient night has begun to break. We are standing at the edge of a new cosmic dawn, a profound awakening where the boundaries between the self and the universe dissolve into a shimmering, interconnected web of infinite probability and conscious light. The realization that our minds are intimately woven into the very fabric of reality is not just a scientific curiosity. It is the catalyst for the next great evolutionary leap of our species. Before we step fully into the light of this new understanding and explore what the future holds for a humanity that has awakened to its true nature, I want to take a moment to speak to you in the quiet space we have created. I am Theodore, the researcher, and it has been the privilege of a lifetime to share this vast, silent journey with you. I noticed recently that exactly 71% of the beautiful, curious minds who watch these explorations have not yet subscribed to the channel. If you have found peace, wonder, and a sense of belonging in these mysteries, please consider subscribing. It helps us endlessly, allowing us to keep this gentle space alive for all of us. Now, let us return to the dawn. Imagine what a civilization might look like when it fully internalizes the truth that the universe is not a dead machine to be conquered, but a living, conscious tapestry to be nurtured. For generations, we have treated the natural world as a separate entity, a vast storehouse of resources sitting silently in the dark, waiting to be extracted and consumed. We have reached out into the void, driven by a fear of our own mortality, and a desperate need to leave a mark on a cosmos we believed was indifferent to our presence. But the terrifying and beautiful truth of quantum mechanics changes the very foundation of this relationship. When we understand that the tree outside your window, the distant swirling galaxies, and the person sitting across from you are expressions of the exact same underlying field of cosmic consciousness, the desire to conquer is gently replaced by an overwhelming desire to harmonize. We begin to see that harming the world around us is literally harming a part of our own extended quantum self. The future of our species depends not on developing more powerful weapons or building faster engines, but on cultivating a deeper level of conscious awareness as we learn to quiet the chaotic noise of our daily lives and tune into the subtle, gentle frequencies of the quantum field. Our technology, our art, and our societies will begin to reflect the elegant mathematics of the universe itself. We will no longer build monuments to our own egos. We will build instruments of profound connection, tools that help us listen more closely to the ancient, silent song of the cosmos. But even as we evolve, we must gently release the exhausting illusion that we will one day understand absolutely everything. In the classical scientific paradigm, the ultimate goal was a single, definitive equation that would banish the shadows of ignorance forever and reduce the magnificent mystery of existence to a predictable, mathematical formula. We wanted to solve the universe like a puzzle and close the lid. However, the most terrifying revelation of quantum physics is that the universe fundamentally resists being completely known. The more closely we look at the fabric of reality, the more it shimmers, shifts, and dissolves into infinite waves of probability. The Heisenberg uncertainty principle is not just a limit on our primitive technology. It is a profound architectural feature of the cosmos. The universe requires a degree of mystery to function. It needs the quiet, unobserved spaces, the hidden variables, and the vast unknown to maintain its fluid, dynamic potential. If we could somehow know the exact position and momentum of every particle, reality would instantly freeze into a dead, unchanging crystal. Therefore, the infinite journey of scientific discovery is not a march toward a final absolute truth that will end our wondering. It is a continuous, beautiful dance with the unknown. Every new discovery simply expands the circumference of our awareness, bringing us into contact with an even larger expanse of mystery. This is not a failure of human intelligence. It is the universe's ultimate gift. It guarantees that our journey will never end, that there will always be another beautiful secret waiting in the dark, and that the capacity for pure wonder will remain our most precious companion for all of eternity. So, where does this leave you, sitting in your quiet room, listening to these words as the night slowly turns toward morning? It places you exactly where you have always been, but with a profoundly transformed perspective. You are the vanguard of this cosmic awakening. Every time you choose to approach a difficult moment with gentle curiosity rather than fear, every time you look up at the stars and feel a resonant connection to the vastness above. And every time you rest peacefully in the presence of an unanswered question, you are doing the essential work of the universe. You are collapsing the wave function of reality into a state of higher harmony. The legendary astronomer Carl Sagan once remarked that we are a way for the universe to know itself. You do not need a laboratory to participate in this magnificent endeavor. Your own mind, with its capacity for quiet reflection and deep empathy, is the most sophisticated quantum instrument ever created. When you feel overwhelmed by the complexities of your human life, remember the invisible, entangled threads that connect the beating of your heart to the slow rotation of the Milky Way. Remember that the ancient conscious light illuminating the furthest quasars is the exact same light allowing you to smile at a friend and dream in the dark. You are never alone. You are a localized expression of the infinite, a beautiful gathering of stardust, granted the miraculous ability to ask questions about its own origin. As we draw this particular journey to a close, I want you to take one final, slow, and deep breath. Feel the air moving into your lungs, an exchange of atoms that have circulated through the atmosphere of this planet for billions of years, breathed by ancient forests, wandering creatures, and countless generations of human beings before you. In this simple, involuntary act, you are intimately entangled with the entire grand history of the earth. Let go of the desperate need to have all the answers. The terrifying secrets we have uncovered about the observer effect, the persistent illusion of time, and the eternal nature of quantum consciousness are not meant to burden your mind with unsolvable mathematical paradoxes. They are meant to liberate you from the heavy, suffocating confines of a mechanical worldview. They gently invite you to step out of the rigid clockwork and into the fluid, breathing, conscious ocean of reality. The universe is a grand, participatory symphony, and it is quietly waiting for you to add your unique, irreplaceable note to the music. We may never fully comprehend the ultimate architecture of the cosmos, but we do not need to understand the underlying mathematics of a beautiful melody to be moved to tears by its harmony. The mystery itself is the glorious destination. The profound, gentle silence of the cosmos is not empty. It is overflowing with the infinite potential of everything that could ever be, simply waiting for the soft light of your awareness to bring it into brilliant existence. Thank you for walking with me through the deep shadows and the illuminating light of the quantum world. Thank you for bringing your genuine curiosity, your quiet patience, and your wonderful mind to this shared space. The exploration of the cosmos is an infinite road, and though we have reached the end of this specific path, there are countless other galaxies, hidden dimensions, and ancient mysteries waiting for us just over the horizon. Keep looking up into the night sky. Keep nurturing that gentle, ancient flame of wonder within your heart. And never forget that you are the universe looking back at itself in absolute, breathtaking awe. Let the silence of the night wrap around you like a comforting blanket, knowing with absolute certainty that you are safe, you are eternal, and you are fundamentally composed of the greatest mystery ever conceived.